But I mean, how do you feel about like deck building in a world where, you know, you're trying to build around a strategy that can be really expensive sometimes, like Commander's Horn?
So I showcased this list because I thought it was an interesting counter to a couple very popular lists,
Mhm.
mainly just Skellige lists. I think that Boost is the closest thing to a pure counter to Bloodthirst. And given the amount of play that we're going to be seeing with Wildborn Wolfsbane and just Croc in general, I think this list has the potential to actually shine in this meta. That's why I included this list in here. It was an idea that I kind of saw in the Lodge of Sorcerers Discord, and I
Mhm.
thought like, okay, I want someone to like see this and think like, okay, I have an idea here. I want to like pursue this, and then like actually be really successful with it. It's kind of more of a showcase of like something that could be really good in this meta, but I'm not really sure yet.
Right on.
So yeah.
It's cool. I mean, like it's cool to not be sure, but like, you know, like what combos are good, you know what cards are good, you know what like really works. Like, you know, if I want to play this leader, then I can play like these 2 or 3 cards like all the time, and I know like what I'm getting for that. Like I know what I'm getting out of it. So like Full Test is like generally a leader like that, but you know, Croc, you could say like, you know, anytime I have a ping available or 2 pings, you know, I know I can make this combo work, and I know that, you know, if I'm playing Erica's Queen and K-Ran, it's like I know that all of my consumes are like +1, and like K-Ran is like really a 7 strength gold, and like you have all these ways of like shifting around. And I think that, you know, there's still like those reliable, like consistent and trusty combos. I'm hoping that they start to be like a little bit more locked in, where playing a leader is not so much about playing an archetype all the time, or even playing like a very specific thing that leader can do, but you're kind of playing like a set of things. You know, you need less Death Wish activators if you're playing Elder, or you don't need to run Avalok if you're running Elder, Eridan, and stuff like that.
Right.
So, you know, so many extra customization options. Just the power level, I think, needs to be sorted out, which is a
Mhm.
great segue to our friend Morvan Voorhees, who has been long, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Criticized for his power level, which I've been seeing a lot less Morvran lately, but for a
Hmm.
while there, you know, it seems like Morvran's always there at the beginning of the meta. Reveal, always there at the beginning, kind of making people mad. But there's some stuff that still makes me pretty mad about Reveal, and some of the stuff that they can get
Yeah.
away with is pretty slimy. Um, let's talk about Reveal. How do you feel about Reveal as far as its random nature and the power level of Morvran generally?
Let's see. So starting off with the random nature, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this deck. Or just the reveal bronze core in general. Just it never feels good to like play against. It's either you feel bad because your opponent low rolled, which actually no one feels bad when reveal low
Nope,
rolls.
never.
You feel bad when reveal high rolls, and it
Yes.
just feels like you're getting cheated out of a game. And that's just something that I've never really associated with Gwent ever. Um, it's like even like old school reveal, like they choose the cards in your hand and they might get lucky. They might, I don't know, you might also be playing reveal and they show off one of those soldiers that would come out of your hand if you revealed it yourself, right?
Mm.
And then that's a brick. But like it never felt like they were getting away with the extra points that they get away with currently. And I think a lot of people are calling for this to change. And I kind of want to join that band camp. Because like I just can't see like really why they decided that having that sort of, I think it's called joust in Hearthstone,
Yeah.
like mechanics really add a lot to keep Nilfgaard interesting. Moving on to Morven, like I don't know, I feel like it's just like a topic that it's an easy like, let's change it, you know.
Sure. I mean, it's that's fine. I mean, not a lot of people like. I mean, for me, I mean, I feel like I think about, you know, at what point would I be happy with reveal? I think that Darylin Foot Soldier or Darylin Soldiers are the absolute worst part of it for me. Like when my opponent hits that Darylin Foot Soldier and like they otherwise like wouldn't have made the points to do like X or whatever it was,
Yeah.
that I was like ready for next turn. I'm like, all right, we got this. And then all of a sudden he drops the you know, he drops the recruit and flips out a Darylin Foot Soldier, and I don't have enough points now, and that was not a guaranteed thing. And that's like
Yeah.
one of the most frustrating things. I'm almost okay with like everything else. I think they could change like recruit to be like boost by 1 if it's a bronze card, boost by 2 if it's a gold card. Like that just means, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, the recruit isn't even that bad. The Arbalest, I think, maybe the extra ping is just 1, or it pings for 2 or 3, but like that means you have to be okay with the just mechanic on some level to be okay with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, I don't really have a problem with it. I think that there is deck building rewards that are in there for, like, if you control it too much, then it's like, you know, if you have the highest unit in your deck and it always shows the highest unit, you always win. So now it's, you know, what's the point, right?
Right.
It's different. Like, I feel like there is a way to make it interesting that isn't necessarily this, but also isn't showing the opponent my hand, because that was something that I was always very kind of about. When my opponent can see my hand and they know it's in my deck, they know it's on top of my deck, they know what I'm playing or whatever, it makes me feel like I just, you know, if I'm already at a disadvantage depending on like turn order, it's like I have no chance at all. So there's got to be a way to get there.
Some particular bronze card is very similar to that. That I think a lot of people should hate more than these reveal things is Viper Witcher, right? Like, oh, Viper Witcher just happens to show that like one game-winning card that you were about to draw. Like, oops, well, I guess you lose the game, right? Like,
Yeah.
it just that particular card for some reason is in the game. I think there's Nilfgaard is like currently for me a weird combination of just like mid-range, so like you're decently putting out tempo, but at the same time it's just kind of like not a very in like deep like faction right now for some reason.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, it doesn't really feel like any of these mechanics work like synergize super well, other than like Vigriff and like the soldiers.
I like that card. I think
yeah, I like that combo.
Yeah.
But outside of that and like Witcher combos, like the only things that are really going for Nilfgaard right now are like the card advantage cards that people are running to like really screw over control decks.
Siri dash, Letho Siri dash kind of stuff.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. So it just kind of feels like they're attempting to. I know, wasn't Nilfgaard supposed to be like the control faction of this new homecoming? I mean, it was supposed to be.
I mean, I thought that it was going to gravitate towards that because it seemed like they had support for locks, so you would just naturally run extra like locks or silencing effects. And they, I mean, the Arbalest and the Ratosser are like really strong removal cards specifically. And they also had at the time, I think at one PTR, or the open PTR, the Nausicaa Brigade was very strong. It was a 4 provision card that was a 3 strength. It was a 3 strength unit that dealt 4 damage to a boosted unit. So like getting 7 out of this 4 provision card was so easy. Like, so these things, like, it looked like Nilfgaard had some really strong control stuff, but it also seemed like they had a really strong like mess with your deck stuff, and like a lot of people like that about Nilfgaard, like this, like the mess with your deck stuff or the mess with your hand stuff. But it is a very polarizing thing, and you know, there's always been polarizing things in card games. Like, I know in Magic the Gathering, a lot of people don't like their spells being countered. Like, if you think, like, basically imagine playing against somebody who basically had a pit trap on the board for everything you wanted to put on the board. Is like basically how it feels to play against a counterspell deck in that game. And that's, you know, that game's been around for 25 years. Counterspell's been around for 25 years. So it's not like a thing, you know, that people, just because people don't like it, it's never left the game. But there is some stuff in Gwent right now that people really just, like, it just like really makes them mad. And for some reason, Camby I don't like Camby is a card that I thought everybody was going to be like so angry about, but I don't see a ton of Viper Witcher stuff lately either, but I see more Viper Witcher hate than Camby hate. And I know you can play around it, kind of like, you're just like, okay, well, I just have to make sure my worst card is there. But like, if it's just like a random Camby comes down when you just happen to have like your best card in that rightmost position in your hand for whatever reason, or, you know, there was a way for your opponent to see your hand on video somehow and know when that card is there. That's never actually happened to me. I'm just, you know, I imagine that it's going to happen to a streamer where the Camby just comes down and it's like, ooh, I know you saw my hand kind of thing. But I felt like Camby was going to be one of those cards.
Yeah, I mean, Camby is also, I think you're forgetting a little something about Camby here. Camby is very broken right now because you're able to force your opponent to go down a card in round 2 if you play it effectively. And I think at the higher levels, that's something that is like really game changing. Yeah. Will like win you the game because your opponent didn't play around a Camby in round 2 because they won for the first round, got down to 7 cards, like passed, and then you just played Camby, and then they have 6 cards for the next round. You know,
Yeah.
like that's a huge shift in card advantage. And but otherwise, I really enjoy Camby's effect because it's a surprise. Like at the end of round 3, like oops, like I played Camby, now your Woodland Spirit doesn't work.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
what are you gonna do about it? Like,
or you thought you had one more turn to like
exactly.
get this thing to like work, and I just eliminated a turn. Like all the things that Camby does, like reduces the length of the game, reduces the amount of turns that are left in the round, forces your opponent to discard a card that's very specific, and they don't get anything back either. Plus, you can use Morkvarg, Trisark Skirmisher with it as well, so you can get the extra value out of it. There's so many things that Camby does. I just feel like, I mean, I know how strong it is, and I know like the gross things you can do with it, but I feel like the things that I see complained about, just I feel like it should be more cards like Camby and less cards like Viper Witchers. As much as I hate Viper Witchers killing my combo, you know? Yeah.
I think it's possible that these cards aren't getting played enough right now, relative to like the way that we see them. Like we're like, okay, like Camby is obviously going to be played in like almost every Skellige deck. Like it should be, because that's something that people aren't prepared for all the time. Like obviously you're going to win some games with it like pretty easily. Like why aren't more people running it? But like if people aren't complaining about it, that means that no one's running it. So maybe people don't see it the same way we theorize it to like work really well, you know? So I think it's pretty similar with I guess with Viper Witchers, like we just mentioned, and just not seeing that much Dragon's Dream. Like there's the meta is still shifting, right? So like people still have to like look through the card pool, like figure out that they really like this, or like run into it enough that they realize how powerful it is, and that happens over time naturally. So we've only been a week into this hot fix, and
hot patch. It's a hot patch.
Hot patch. It's a hot patch. It's just a patch. It's a band-aid, a hot band-aid. So obviously things are going to change, and I'm excited for it. So yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it too. I think that I mean, there's a lot of things that have like turned out to be not as strong. I mean, like I thought the Tibor was going to be like a really, really like out of control card, and it's not that crazy. I mean, it seems like it's there's ways to like really, you know, really use that card or abuse that card as far as like milling strategy or setting, you know, knowing exactly what Tibor is pulling. But I thought it was going to be like a crazier card. Another one was Asira Roach. How do you feel about Asira Varanahid putting Roach back in the deck and then immediately getting Roach out for it being a 10-point play? That seemed like a lot of people were, I feel, rightfully saying this card is really, really strong. Do you think that it is? Do you think it's still like? I mean, it's obviously strong. But do you think that it's in a good place now? Like as far as like what it's worth to put into the deck, as far as what Roach is worth to put into the deck.
Let's see, how many provisions is that in total? So Asire is 8, right? And then Roach is 9.
That's correct. 17.
Yeah, so that is pretty costly for, let's see, you're getting 8 points out of Roach, and then you're getting 6 points out of Asire. So if we do the math correctly here, which I sometimes mess up, like you're getting 14 points for a total of 17 provisions. Like people have been talking about provisions being something that you kind of want to equate with points in order to get like value out of your card. And so just based on that, and like let's look at a different combo here. Like let's look at the two the Unicorn and the Chironex.
Yeah,
so the Unicorn and the Chironex are each 9, right? So a total of 18 provisions, and you're getting, if you have both in your hand, you're getting 20 points out of them, because one is 8 and the other one's 12. So that's like actually really, really good value. Whereas Asire is like, okay, like you're getting 3 points less than the provisions that you're actually paying. Like it feels a bit more fair because of it, and it doesn't feel like it's really overtuned, because you're paying a pretty hefty cost for playing that combo, playing a 10-point tempo play.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so I just feel like maybe Asira is, I mean, Asira also has that flexibility of actually like doing something to your opponent's graveyard. You know, it seemed like putting something back in your deck is obviously very good. It seems like Roach is just kind of like the easy answer, and maybe there could be like a more interesting thing, but it is kind of like a throwback to like how Asira is. I mean, it's okay. I feel like there's some Gwenty things that are still in the game that I'm just fine with, right? Like Asira putting Roach back in the deck, but then Roach immediately coming out again. It feels just like, it feels cheesy when it happens, and 10 points is a strong play to make at the time. And you do get the benefits of Roach, and Roach at 9 getting the benefit once already seems pretty legit for some people. So you get the benefit kind of twice, but in a weird way the second time. But it seems like, I mean, I'm just not quite sure. I don't know if I just don't know if it's overpowered anymore. I think it's okay for it to be a good card and for it to be strong, and for Assyria to still do the same thing. I think I'm more okay with it than I used to be. Just like the same thing with Tibor as I look at this Nilfgaard list. But I mean, we just had a really long discussion about Gwent strategy and the meta. DrGrrrr, is there anything we didn't talk about regarding the meta that you wanted to touch on before we wrap things up here for podcast 99?
I think I reiterated this a couple of times. I really wish that there was a good way to counter control, and that CDPR kind of allows the card pool to do that, because right now I think a lot of players are staring at a smoking barrel of just control after control after control, and that can't be mentally healthy for a lot of these players who play this game a lot. So
sometimes it sucks to run into it, but that's what casual mode is allowing us. Like, I feel like it's PTR-esque, this launch that we're going through, where I feel like the ranks don't matter. Like, you can't even get into pro rank anyway if you're in pre-rank. You can't even like cross that line. I don't even think it's actually possible right now. Like the queue times or the opponents that are available, or the amount of, like, you have to get like 10 extra games at the end to get in. So like, I'm trying not even to care. I care more about my regional ranking in MMR than I do about my actual rank. So going on the rank mode is just like inviting myself to play Ethna all the time. And can this deck beat Ethna? Just click here. But casual is where you can like really kind of, you know, in a world with more diversity and balance, would this deck actually be a thing that we could try out? Maybe in a balanced world, maybe is this the first thing I would run to, or maybe something that I would try to like plan, you know, if I don't have to deal with control, am I there? And I think that's okay. I think that, you know, we just need to have more like ancient foglets in the world, like stuff that's like really hard to like the control decks just don't hate seeing that kind of stuff. So I agree.
Yeah. But I think otherwise I'm enjoying the meta a lot. I think there's a lot of options, as I did showcase in that article, and I think there's a lot of ways to play. I would agree with you, McBeard, that casual is probably the way to go. Just test things out right now. Like, the meta is still fresh. Like, there's still avenues to explore, and I think there's a lot of potential out there that we just haven't found yet.
That's the truth. That's the truth. So let's just quickly go to the chat. I just got a couple of questions in the chat, and we're going to wrap things up. This podcast went a little on the long side, and I know that I'm uploading like a 2-hour one next week. So let's try to keep the bandwidth under control. It's going to be a long podcast next week, of course, and that's one of the questions here. So let's turn it over to the community here and see what people are saying. All right, my friends, once again, we are supported by the Commandos. Our patrons at patreon.com/commandershorn. Thanks so much for your support. Thanks for all the support. However it comes in, of course, through subs, or, you know, subs on Twitch, or follows on YouTube, or really everything. All of it. Very, very, really feeling the love right now. So thanks very much to everybody. We got DrGrrrr on the line, and the question here, we got some questions about, you know, the next episode, and we're still on this episode, and it was a great one too. I'm really happy to finally have like a real, like, I mean, we've talked about strategy in every episode because the homecoming meta has been forming, but I feel like this has been more of like a critical look at it. So thanks, DrGrrrr, for providing, you know, the analysis and the meta for this episode. But questions about episode 100. So like I said, if you want to add commandershornpodcast@gmail.com to Skype, just leave a message saying, hey, I want to leave you a message for Commander's Horn. You can leave me a video message or an audio message, or however you want to leave a message for me there. You can send a recording to commandershornpodcast@gmail.com as well. If you wanted just to say, hey, been listening to the podcast since episode X, you know, just wanted to say, you know, how Commander's Horn what Commander's Horn has meant to you over the last 2 years that we've been doing this. So, and I'm going to try to find more ways for the fans to participate in the episode. But we also have 2 special interviews coming up for episode 100. Seb McBeard, level designer for CD Projekt Red, as well as Jason Slama, director of online operations, who you saw present the feature system, the progression system, rank system, as well. So I'm looking forward to presenting those interviews for you as well. So those are all the plans. And finally, what cosplay am I doing for episode 100? Is it Moran? As usual, the costume shop is just fresh out of green paint. I can't get enough green paint for it. Meow indeed. So some real questions here. So 2 questions here. Do you guys miss the third row, and do you guys think that gold immunity should make a comeback? So this is SP Timbo asking in the chat. Thanks to Wes and Meow Indeed for the other questions about episode 100. DrGrrrr, do you miss the third row?
Yeah, that's a really weird question. I don't think I do. I think I'm very accustomed to the 2 rows now, but I do miss not lining up Igni as frequently.
Yeah.
I think row punishment is a lot bigger now, and I'm happy that it is, but at the same time it feels like playing around it is a lot tougher, and that feels worse. But that's just because I was used to the 3 rows, so I was kind of like, oh, like row punishment never happens, right? Like they're not running Igni, I don't have to worry about it. Like now it's like something that's constantly on my mind, and so I'm always more worried about it. But I think that's a good thing. I think it was a healthy change for the game.
Yeah, I mean it's really interesting. Like there's a lot of decisions that are made now in the new in Homecoming Gwent that involve like taking you need to actually have board presence, but in doing so you also need to like play around all these things that can take that away from you in a moment. Like is something in the range of Geralt of Rivia or Geralt Professional, aka Jerry the Pro. Am I playing into Igni? Can my opponent move me into an Igni? Where can my opponent deal the next haymaker? Because what I think is happening now is control is strong, and I think that was like the intention. But at the same time, I also think that fighting for the board is an intention as well. Some factions can do it better than others, and I think that that's showing up, as well as some factions can deal with a full board better than others, as that's also showing up. So I think it's really interesting kind of how we're getting there. As far as the third row specifically, I don't miss it personally. I think that there should be more ways for players to have comeback. Like even round 1, even if it gets really crazy, you're a lot of times still just fighting for last say on round 3. So, the stakes are there. You know what the stakes are in the round. Fighting for the round is very strategic. When are you passing? When do you know like the best turn to pass, the best turn to take the risks? I think that that's good because your opponent can come back at any given time. Like there's a lot of stuff that's holding back in those hands, and like using those resources and like keeping the points close and then wanting to really spread those points out. I think that there's a lot there that we're all still figuring out. But playing around Gwent Igni, you don't want it to be too easy for someone to line up the Ignis and the Scorches, because then that takes a lot of strategy away from planning ahead, because it's just like, well, my opponent can just scorch me because they can ping me here and there's nothing I can do about it, so I'm forced to pass. But is it just a bluff? Or, I mean, there's still a lot happening, I think. But what about gold immunity? Because immunity's still in the game. What do you about gold, like specific, like can't be scorched, can't be interacted in any way, weather doesn't hurt it? I think that the current level of immunity is kind of like a fixed version of gold immunity while being very sparing in giving those units immunity. How do you feel about immunity, DrGrrrr?
So you did say gold's not being scorched. Oh yeah, that was a thing. Sorry, I was thinking about immune units right now. I got confused.
No, gold units were exempt from scorching.
Yeah.
They didn't even count towards scorching. Like it didn't count as the highest unit or anything.
I think that's why I disliked Scoia'tael so much back in the day, because they had gold immunity and they would just play like 4 gold cards in round 3 and you couldn't do anything about it, and they would just scorch off whatever you had, right?
Yeah,
like it just
that's what happened.
You. I think the amount of immune units that we have right now is pretty darn fair. I like that there's even a leader that allows you to immune a unit. It like feels like a really, really potent resource that you're constantly worried about and constantly trying to play around. Like you're trying to get so far ahead or like bleed it out of them, depending on the round, obviously.
It forces the meta too around like cards like Epidemic and like Glorious Hunt, Scorch, etc.
Right. So I think we have enough immune units right now. I don't know if any of them are not being played.
I mean, Nilfgaard's immune unit, the only non-Scoia'tael / monsters immune unit is Nilfgaard's immune unit, the Hefty Helga. I've seen it like once, and I think it might have just been a fight night where someone was just trying something out. But I don't think that's seeing a lot of play, but it's like it's a slow card. It's like a slow engine card that has immunity because it needs it, right? Like it's got 2 health on it. You're never gonna kill it, or you're never gonna not kill it. It dies to a stiff breeze. So it's interesting they took that approach to like one engine in the entire game, if you even want to call it an engine. It's like more like a one-time use, because you can't reload it in Nilfgaard, and it's immune anyway, so you couldn't target it for reloading anyway. So I don't think there's a way, like, only short of Odrin reloading it with a charge-giving ability, you can't really reload it. So or isn't it just an order? I don't even know. I'm not looking at it right now.
Yeah, it's one order, no charges.
Yeah. One order, no charges. So it's like it's a very unique immune unit. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Great question, Timbo. Great question. And we're gonna wrap it up there. I think that's a pretty healthy podcast. Thanks, DrGrrrr. You were ready at 7, and or you ready at 6, and now it's 7:45. It's a healthy podcast. Thanks so much for making a solid episode 99, DrGrrrr. Where can people find you out there when you are streaming, writing? Plug all of your things.
Well, first of all, I'm honored to be on the podcast. Thanks so much for inviting me, McBeard. I had a great time having a good conversation with you regarding the meta. You guys can find me on twitch.tv/DrGrrrr. The Grrrr has 4 R's. That's very important. Anywhere you find me, 4 R's in Grrrr. I really just have to say that multiple times. 4 R's in Grrrr.
Yeah.
You can also find me on Twitter, and you can find me on teamrankstar.com, where I post my articles every couple weeks. I try to make sure that I'm on top of the meta, and maybe in the future we might have tier lists. I'm not sure yet. I would rather prefer to have people have a jumping off point rather than like just choosing the best deck.
Matchup should be important, though, right? Matchup should be important. There should be a lot of considerations in tiers. I'm not crazy about tier lists.
I'm not completely sure about where I'm going with those articles. I've only written my second one at this point, so I think I'm still pretty new with article writing, but I'm planning on continuing it. So yeah, thanks for having me once again.
It seemed pretty appreciated. Got a pretty nice Reddit post as well, so we'll put that in the show notes as well. But of course, just go to the article. I mean, you're just going to see the Reddit post. You're just going to see appreciation for it. And of course, you can add your own appreciation for it there on Reddit. Should be up there still. So thanks, DrGrrrr, for coming on, and thanks to all of you for joining in the chat as well live. And we'll wrap this up. Once again, you can find us on Twitter at CommandersHorn. You can email the podcast, and you are encouraged to please email the podcast for an episode 100 celebration next week on November 22nd with 2 special interviews, and who knows what else is going to happen, but you can be a part of it. Email us, send me a message on Skype. Be involved. It would be great. Tweet at us. Like, just tweet. I kept on saying us. I mean, us. Me and my guest, of course. Us, like Echoes of Greyboxer. Us, me and Wes. Wes is helping out as well. So, shout outs to all of you. I would love to just read stuff, just like hang out with you guys, while I also showcase these great interviews that I have with Seb and Jason. So it should be a good time next week. I'm preparing for it basically as soon as I'm done getting this podcast up. And you can follow me in all of this stuff. I'm McBeardCH on Twitter, McBearded on Twitch, usually starting around 10 a.m. on most weekdays. Thursday podcast night, Friday fight night. So the schedule's kind of all over the place, but my schedule's on my page, so you can check that out. And of course, it's all up there on YouTube. Search up McBeard, or just put in youtube.com/c/McBeard. Boy, that was a mouthful. Thanks so much. Thanks. Oh, hi everybody. Thanks everybody. Thanks for all the emotes and the cheers in the chat, and for all the subs. And I will thank the subs. You know what? Yeah, I'll stay on. I'll stay on the air after this outro song here. But until next time, thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Best of luck on the path. All right. There's not going to be like long after pod talks. And DrGrrrr, thanks so much for showing up. But I just wanted to, I don't want to break the thing here. I just wanted to, because there is a lot of stuff that happened during that chat. And I just want to say thanks to everybody in there. So I just want to check the old activity feed, so I make sure that everything was covered here for the podcast. So thank you so much, Professor Murdoch, for the host, for Decode, for the resub, for the gift subs from Decode, for Markthius, for Rage Derek, Decode also cheered 500 bits, gifted a subscription to K94. Thanks to Photomental for the Prime sub. Agrid13 got a gift sub from Decode as well as Winged Kaz. Also, as well as Herbert Duderville, Dreamon, Ender122, Weisenberg, Trasher54, all got gift subs from Decode. So thanks so much, Decode. Wes, thanks for the big cheers. And Gulo-X2, thanks so much for the big cheers. You guys are so awesome. I am so happy to have you guys in the community. DrGrrrr, sorry for awkwardly keeping you in the window there. I could have just switched to my solo scene, but I just wanted to thank you after we went dropped the stream. So thanks, everybody. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow for fight night and maybe some other stuff. I don't know. I feel like the stream has suffered from my IP, and I want to just do some more streaming. So I'll see you next time. Going to drop the stream right here, and see you tomorrow for fight night.